Hello, this is a Grotrian Steinweg Grand 189 and that's 6'2" and it's just come into stock. The piano's made in 1981. It's not excessively used. The main problems are cosmetic. Well, obviously we can easily polish this brass. You can see we're starting on the G here. The inside of the piano is in extremely good condition. Just a slight patch here on the soundboard. I'm not quite sure what that is. Hopefully we can remove it. It's unusual to have a circular patch there, and there's also something being spilt just beyond it there. The strings are also quite oxidised. I don't know if you see the difference there. That's not so oxidised and this is. And all the strings are oxidised. It's not really making any difference to tone. It's quite common for strings to be oxidised. We'll obviously clean the oxidisation off. The bass strings don't seem to be suffering in the same way. They're very high quality bass strings, as we'll hear in a minute. The piano was originally imported and sold by Morley's of London. That's the Morley's number. Now, there's lots of scratches on the piano, on the music stand and on the top lid here, and a lot of them can be removed, but the main problem we've got is this is actually a crack in the polyester itself, which can't be removed without repolyestering the whole of the top. There's also another little crack here next to the hinge, and some larger scratches like this one here. The music desk and the front part of the lid, the underside, is also very scratched. Interesting, the pedals, there's two pedal piano. Normally at this age, a piano has three pedals, which is unusual to have two. The middle one's a sostenuto pedal, not used that much, but it's usually on all modern pianos. Showing you a close-up of this because it was obviously lacquered before. This is lacquer on here, and you can see where the lacquer's worn off where it's been used. Normally pedals are not lacquered like that. And the action is a Renner action. It's the company we use for all our action parts, except sometimes we use Arbel for hammers. As you can see, these hammers were made by Renner on the 16th of June 1981. Now, there are some very slightly stiff hammers that we will need to lubricate, but nothing serious. And the hammer wear, it's not very great for the age of the piano, but I think we're still going to have to voice the piano a bit. Some of the hammers are slightly soft, having been played. Just gently taking off the top surface and then matching them up with needling here. We should be able to get a wonderful even tone. It's extremely well made piano. So that's a Grotrian Steinweg 189 grand piano. That's 6'2" long, and just a very, very high quality instrument. Suffering cosmetically on the case, but the piano itself is not suffering at all. It just has a beautiful tone. Right down to the bass, you hear the richness there. And the clarity of tone in the treble, a huge variety in volume. A very controllable action. It's piano making at its best, really. Thank you very much for listening. Now, the piano's been reconditioned and sold. I just wanted to use the opportunity to mention a few things which I think might be useful. As you see, the name's cleaned up very well. That's never a problem. And I say we've removed probably about 60% of the scratching. The inside's cleaned up beautifully too, though we didn't manage to remove that circular patch I mentioned before. Must have been something stuck on there, I think. Now, the main reason I wanted to make this video is to show you what's on the underside of the music stand. And this is a tremendous idea, and it would be wonderful if other manufacturers copied it. You can see the regulation here, the measurements in millimeters, A440 of course, and then there's the weight, 50 grams. There's the key dip on the naturals, key dip on the sharps, 10 millimeters, 11.5, 10 millimeters on the naturals, 11.5 there. This is pretty standard, although there's one or two. Pianos vary slightly. 10 millimeters is a bit less than you'd normally expect. The Steinways also go for 10, 10.5. Normally I set it at 11. It's just that keyboards and so on are at 11. 10 seems slightly shallow very often, but it works really well on this piano. And we have other measurements here. We have the blow distance. That's the distance the hammer should travel, 45 millimeters. That can be between 45 and 47. 15 millimeters is where it checks back after it's hit the string. 2 millimeters is the drop screw, And 1mm here is the jack coming out. That's set off, what we call set off, is 1mm there. That is normal. You basically get it as close as you can, but making sure it works as well as possible. 2mm then for the drop screw, same again. 15mm for the... this is really, really useful. And thank you very much, Grotrian, for doing this. And it would be wonderful if other manufacturers could take the trouble to put something on the underside, because if there is slight variety in touch, then it's good to know what the manufacturer wants. Now, having said that, a few things that prefer on other manufacturers. This pedal, for instance, is really high. It's over 7 centimeters high off the floor. That makes quite an angle when playing, and you can see how it shows wear at the end of the pedal here. In contrast, this Yamaha is 5 and a bit centimeters from the floor. And this Bechstein is my favourite. It's only 4.5 centimetres from the floor, which means you can, if you're very tall, you can increase the leg room by putting glass caster cups under, and the pedals won't be too high. Another thing I'm too keen on is these screws in the front rail that are unnecessary, really, and also flat-headed screws here for the main sheet. Compare that with this Bechstein here, has a wing nut, which is much more friendly for technicians. So it's another very brief look at this Grotrian, and it's a wonderful piano altogether, and that's a wonderful idea they've got of putting the regulation on the underside of the music stand, and I'd like to encourage other manufacturers to do that. On the other hand, the pedals are a bit on the high side, and also the extra screws, which are unnecessary really in the in the front rail. Thank you very much for listening.